Welcome back to the Live to Give podcast. My name is Jacob, and I am the host, the singular host, because we're doing something a little different. We have been in a sermon series here at Faith Church called You Asked For It, and it's a sermon series where our community has been asking us questions, and when we've been responding to said questions on Sundays. However, we have gotten a bajillion questions, and we could not get to all of them, so we are here today in an attempt to respond to more questions. So with me today is Courtney, our family life pastor, Ashley, our worship director, Evan, our operations pastor, and Nathaniel, aka Nate. That's actually the other way around, but what is your title?
I don't remember.
Spiritual formations pastor.
That's right. I was so impressed you knew everybody.
I know. It was going so well. Well, how are we doing today?
Great.
Well.
Pretty good.
Wow, that was resounding.
Pretty good. Dreary day. A little cloudy.
I know it makes me happy.
What?
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Remember that movie where the dog died? You sounded like Sadness right now from Inside Out.
Oh, I love her.
That's Phyllis from The
Yes,
Office.
I know. She's my favorite. I love her. Anyways, so full disclaimer before we hop into some of these questions, we are responding to these questions. We are not experts. We don't know everything.
Some of us.
Right. Evan might know everything, but
We tend to.
Yeah. But yeah, so our goal is just to respond in an authentic, intentional way. And honestly, you can take it or leave it. But seriously though, if you have more questions, if you want to have a conversation, then email us, get in touch with us, and we would love to talk one-on-one with you because some of these are pretty deep, pretty intense, and there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to process, and we'd love to process with you. So you can do that as well. All right. All that aside, are we ready to hop in?
I am.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Alrighty, first question, kind of around theology, is what effect does free will have on my faith? Ashley, did you want to answer this one?
Yeah. So the whole idea of free will has been something that I've been exploring more, I guess, over the last several years. I have an uncle that is a pastor, and we kind of talked through questions and stuff like that. And so just like the fact that we're not all robots, God didn't give us we have to serve him. We have to know who he is. We have to trust him. It was like, in my opinion, pretty gutsy because we so many people choose not to, you know, we don't, it's not something you can force, but then if you force it, it's not true love. It's not true faith if you're not choosing it for yourself. So you have the choice to choose. You have the choice to see him and to believe and to discover it for yourself. And even growing up in a house that was a church-going Christian, God-believing house, it was still my parents' faith until I chose it for myself. And now that I have chosen it for myself, it's so real and rich, and it's like become who I am. My faith is who I am. I'm God's girl. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Does anybody have any other thought? Excuse me. Anybody have any other thoughts about free will?
It's a big topic.
Yeah,
without
it
a
is
doubt.
really big.
And so whenever we, I guess, journey down this topic, we have to be open in the sense that we don't know all the ins and outs of how God works.
Yeah.
When it comes to humanity, it comes to the human heart, we don't know. And so some ways that we have tried to predict that has been through free will and also the Calvinistic understanding of more John Calvin it comes out of, but like this understanding where God plans everything and we kind of understand that. And where I stand, I mean, if you want to know, like our church is lined up with the Wesleyan Church, we have more of an Arminian view, which is free will. And so here's what I would say in light of all of that. I think it's a lot of both and. I mean, and not even just both and, there's a lot more to it that we really have no clue about. So when people, I think this is kind of like, it shows the temperature of what the church can be like, that we have to have an answer. And in this area, I don't know if we actually have an answer. What it truly looks like to know how God works through humans is very difficult. Yeah. But I do like the principles that we have, and I think they do work. But yeah, it's an open-ended question, I think.
It is. I think it's really interesting too because like in my school, so like there's this thing in Bible college where they'll debate a topic. There's like a hot topic that everybody is talking about. I don't know if that's been in the case for y'all, but at my school, it wasn't Arminianism, Calvinism, but it was Arminianism and open theism, which is like a whole other thing. But like there's so many things about this particular topic where you can wrap your little brain up in all kinds of twists and turns to like try and figure it out, but we just don't.
The thing that I don't like about this question is the pressure people can feel from it, as if like I need to
Yeah.
get this right because I have free will. I need to make sure I don't screw up. And I don't think God operates in that way.
I love that.
Around our free will. An example I heard of trying to understand God's will. This was years ago, so it's kind of lackluster nowadays. But it's like when you go to pick a cable provider, like God's will is like one of those cable providers. He's not like we have free will and all these things that we could do, but like we should choose God as the cable provider, but he may give you the remote and say, what do you want to watch? Like, it's kind of like that, where it's like a both and. Like, there isn't this pressure that we need to like, hey, your next step in life exactly better be right. Like there's a both and component to there. So
Right.
If
So-
God did pick a cable company, would it be Comcast?
oh heck no, it wouldn't be Comcast.
Dang, I'm out.
Absolutely.
I'm out, guys.
Oh, that's good. All right, ready for the next one?
I thought we were done.
Yeah, that was it. Just one question.
LOL.
That was one question.
No.
72.
Yeah. All right. Next is, what's the deal with fasting? The church I grew up in framed it as a thing to do to get things from God, but there's got to be more to the spiritual practice. So fasting, transactional, not transactional. What actually is it? What is it for? How does it help us? You want to answer that, Nate, for us as the spiritual formation?
Sure. I actually, before I even was a pastor, started exploring more with fasting with a life group. I had a small life group of guys that we decided to try to figure out what fasting was all about. And so we looked into it, did some research, and found out it wasn't what we were thinking. It was more what we found out. It was a communal thing where we would fast together, and what would happen in the fasting there's a lot to it, and I don't know if I will do this justice, but fasting becomes very quickly legalistic.
Yeah.
If you're not careful, because fasting is going without, and it's more of a surrendering instead of looking to other people, say, hey, look at me, look at me, look at what I'm doing. I had a friend once that decided he wanted to fast, and he made it public. He put it on Facebook, and he wanted people to know how long he was and all that kind of stuff. And I remember talking to him. I was just like, I don't know if that's what it's about. I don't know if fasting is meant to be public. If it is in some small form, I think it can be helpful. But then it comes down to, I did this. What are you doing? That kind of thing. What are you giving up? And so what I learned more about fasting, it's more about a time where when you go without your spiritual antenna. That was a belly growl.
That was wild.
Somebody's hungry in this room.
Intermittent fasting. at its
There it
finest.
is. There
Right
it is.
there.
That's what fasting sounds like. Yeah.
Wow.
What's funny is if we were video recording this right now, like the listener wouldn't know which one of us did it, but you singled
It was
yourself
me.
out on the video.
It was me.
So Courtney's hungry, currently
it was
I
fasting.
don't do
Bear.
fasting.
Oh, there's a bear in here.
So fasting sounds like a growl.
Yeah.
If you want to know what it sounds like.
The language of fasting.
But so what I learned was it's more of a place you go to have a deeper understanding of who God is. There's more of like when you actually enter in and you say, I am not God, I'm going to go without. I think you come to a place where you start to understand more of who God is for you, not for other people. But I feel like it's really intimately, it sets a tone for you to refresh. And fasting feels so much more like painful than not. And the more you journey through fasting, I feel like it complements your spiritual journey with Jesus and deepens your love for him. It deepens your love for people. And that's the byproduct of fasting. It's not the fact that you accomplish something. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that you have more knowledge of who you are as a child of God and how much you need your Savior. That's I think if you want to know if you're doing fasting right, those should start entering into your heart, who you are, your personhood as you fast more. So I feel like it's more like here's the indicators of doing fasting correctly instead of saying this is what fasting is all about. Because it's a journey. It's an experience. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of what I've understand fasting as. It is a practice, it is a discipline, but it's meant for us to have a deeper understanding of what love's all about.
So with fasting, like, should we like endeavor? I know this gets a little bit legalistic, but I'm just like curious if people have these thoughts. So like, when do I fast? Should I fast a certain number of times? Like, does it matter? Like those kinds of like operational things, like logistical things almost. Like, should I just let God tell me like, oh, you need to fast? Like, how do I know? If that makes sense.
I'll start something and you guys can piggyback. I think there, like what Evan said, the last question, there's a lot of pressure around fasting. And I feel like because Jesus called out with his disciples, specifically, this miracle did not happen because they did not fast and prayed enough. There is truth to that. There's truth. Jesus said it. There's truth in that. But immediately we create that into a rule, or that's law,
right?
And that was that setting right there. You know what? It didn't. Instance. I don't know if it means it for everything, but like immediately we turn that to be what we look for. So if a miracle doesn't happen, it means we didn't fast enough. We didn't try hard enough. That's not Christianity.
Well, and it brings our focus to ourselves and on what we are doing versus truly focusing on who he is and allowing his power, and his timing and his plan for us, and his love even. It just, anytime we take our focus off of him and put it on ourselves, it becomes about how we do it, why we, like, it's more us, So.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts actually on this. So one is that I've been told at points throughout, I'm trying to think who specifically told me, but I can't think of who it was, or it was something I implied to myself, whatever, but I had to fast if I was a good Christian at certain times throughout my life. I personally, if I go like more, I do intermittent fasting, that's the summit growl, but that's like 14 hours. If I go more beyond that, I get massive migraines. And so like I had to have like a medical procedure done where I had to go like 36 hours without eating. And I got to the medical place and they had to put an IV in me and painkillers right off the bat because I was so messed up.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, it was awful. So I've always been like, but I can't fast because my body like actually like revolts on me if I don't eat. Like I get these migraines, I'm laid out flat. It's a big thing. So when people are like, oh, you need to fast if you're going to be spiritual, it was this immediate, like for me, what I put on myself was this like, oh, well, I guess I'm not spiritual enough. Like, cause my body won't let me go for extended periods of time. And so that's been hard for me to process, even growing up more. And then I've seen it played out too, kind of what Nate was talking about with like, my grandma was super sick, cancer towards her end. And, I had a relative that started fasting and she went months and months and months of fasting to the point where she lost like probably 50 to 60 pounds. And she, to this day, is still physically off because of it.
Wow.
It escalated some dementia. It was a whole starting point for her of a downturn, like physically. Wow. So it was that point though of like, oh, and she very much believed like, if I fast, if I do this, then like she's going to be healed, like has to be healed. And so then it's how do you converse about that afterwards of like, grandma still passed. So what do you do? Like, how does that play out? So that's kind of like a couple of my experiences with fasting. But what I have done, because I can't necessarily do the food thing for super long, but it's more of, so what pulls my attention from God and from, if I'm too much into something, then it's more of, okay, I'm going to fast from Facebook or whatever, and try to get that. So it's a refocus. Because in that question that Jacob asked, it talks about like this person grew up that it was a thing that you do to get things from God. And I don't think that's the point in it at all. That it's about
more of a
how
byproduct.
Can you strengthen your relationship with him, and to grow in it. So what is keeping you from like having that? Is there something in your life that's holding you back from growing in him? And maybe that is something that you need to fast. So I don't know.
The disciples fasted from Facebook as well.
They did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they
Wow.
did. No social media.
That's
Yeah.
no.
One of the
Is that
number
possible?
one.
Not once.
Yeah.
One of them, well, Judas had a Twitter account.
No,
Little
did-
backstabber.
it
He's a
didn't end well for
backstabber.
him.
He was tweeting.
That's so good. That's hilarious. One quick question about fasting before we move on. Evan, what would you say to somebody who maybe has never fasted before? And like, how would you encourage them as they are endeavoring the process?
Yeah, I mean, start somewhere. Probably start small too, just to see what it's like. Get your bearings and what it could turn into. Like Courtney was saying, you could do it with your phone during certain hours of the day. You can do it with social media. You could fast from like your own attitude at times. Like you don't have to fast from food. I think.
How do you fast from your own attitude?
Well, it's like I refuse to be, even though I could be down right now. I'm refusing to. I will not.
That's
even
my
though
life.
It's right. Or it makes sense. I don't know.
Day.
So I mean, the disciples they had to fast from food because that was the greatest reward and necessity during that time. Like our culture is a lot different, so food is certainly valuable, and we can still fast from that. But there's a lot of avenues there that you can play into. If you fast from homework, though, like I ain't gonna bring you closer to Jesus. Fast from something that is actually meaningful and takes up space in your life.
I think fasting is more connected to time. Like honestly, there's a time variant in the sense, what do you spend your most of your time doing? And look at those things. Like because there's an element of control. Whatever you give your time to, there can be an element of that's controlling you. And I think like how John ends his gospel when he says, "Watch out for idolatry." There's a lot more to idolatry than we realize. And I think it's those times where we go without, we start understanding what's really controlling us.
That's good stuff, y'all. All right.
Now we're done.
That was the last question?
No.
Wow.
Certainly wasn't. We're going to pivot to we had a lot of questions.
Sorry, I can't help it. When I hear
We're
that,
sitting on the pivot couch.
I can't.
We are.
You did that.
on the friends couch.
We
As a
are.
Nate and I
softball.
are on the friends.
It had to pivot quite a few times to get into this room.
Yes, it sure did.
It's heavy. I feel like there's somebody in here.
We don't know where Kirk's been
Right.
for a bit.
Mystery solved.
He's either in there or in the ball pit.
When
one
I
of the
sat
two.
down on this couch, I heard a ugh.
That's
I
good.
heard something.
Do you normally hear that from furniture?
Oh my gosh!
There's our brain
Ashley!
break.
Every time!
I've never seen Evan so surprised or gasped.
Aghast. He is aghast.
To our podcast listeners, please get to our YouTube and watch this video. There's major beef happening between Ashley and I right now.
Wow.
Wrong with
Oh, man.
So, do you have an answer, Evan?
The answer is yes. I often find Kirk hiding in furniture.
And there it is.
Oh my word.
That was free, guys.
That
Free
was-
of charge.
Free entertainment. Oh my gosh.
That's all good. I'm sure Ashley feels so bad. You're fine.
Yes.
So good.
So good.
I knew what you meant. Yes, they often creak.
Furniture often moans.
When I go to a wedding, I really hope they don't have those cheap fold-up chairs. So, otherwise, I have to hover above the chair for the whole ceremony.
That gives the glutes a workout.
Oh, man. I come out, my quads are twice the size.
Doing sumo squats the entire time.
Oh my god.
All right.
Oh.
That was good.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was great.
So someone submitted that question?
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Yeah.
So we should. What's the next question?
Yeah, we're gonna move on. So, as we pivot,
Pivot.
pivot.
Can't help it.
I know, I get it. We had a lot of questions surrounding parenting, and we have a couple here, but we'll start with the first one. And I personally like this question, but is it wrong or selfish to not want children? Do you
Yes. Totally kidding.
No.
Totally kidding. No. It's a hard question because it really puts you in a really tough spot.
How so?
Well, it forces you to be like, it feels like there's guilt in that question, you know? Like, and I would rather address the guilt. It feels like a negative question. Like someone
Like,
has
how
been put in
dare
that
you
situation.
feel
I've
selfish
heard of churches cornering people, honestly.
For real?
Yeah, cornering people, telling them they should continue. Like, yeah, there has been pressure around this a lot with parents, especially from the church.
Yeah.
There's a movement in the Christian culture called quiverful, I think is what they call it. And it's the idea of like having as much arrows in the quiver
Wait,
as
is this
possible.
real?
Yeah. And so like you just keep on pumping out kids because because then you get to train up those kids to be Christians. So you're flooding the human market, if you will, with Christians. So it's a quiverful
So it's like
movement is what they call
Are
it.
you messing with me?
Swear I'm not.
No
No,
way.
it's,
She said
it's
yeah.
legit, yeah. And like I was kind of in my culture that I was raised in. It felt like there was this expectation of like the more spiritual you are, the more kids you're gonna have.
Oh,
So
my
like the people that
gosh.
had 5, 6, 7, 8 children
Yeah.
were like, whoa, they must really love Jesus.
Yeah.
For each other. But like, how does that? Yeah, like no, that's not what it's about. So yeah.
It can be a blessing.
It can,
Like,
absolutely.
we're not arguing against
It's
that.
not that
I
at
have kids.
all. Right.
4 of the 5 of us
And
in this room,
Everyone
we have
has
kids.
kids
Like
except for me.
it can be great. Like
Yeah.
we're not, but
Half
the
of my kids are a
pressure
blessing.
to like you're wrong if you don't keep on having kids or have
Right.
kids at all. Like that's
Right.
no, that's not okay.
Yeah. There's absolutely guilt in that question because there is this like expectation of like, well, yeah, if you love Jesus or and we do it to each other too. If somebody gets married, like the first question is,
Right.
oh, when you're gonna have kids?
Oh
You know,
my
like it's
gosh,
just
I
kind of this
hate that.
like, oh, this is what you have to do if you're a
Yeah.
human. This is what you are going to do. But it's not necessarily something that we have to do. We just put it on each other, which causes guilt.
Well, and I think of like in the beginning when he said, you know, be fruitful and multiply, and like he created us to have families and everything. Anytime scripture is used in that way, it's using God's word. And I feel like that's not what it's supposed to be. And I remember there was one time I have always been in church. So when you get married in church, that is the next question and whatever. And my husband and I got married really young, and it had been like, 6 or 7. We didn't have kids till it was like 8, almost 9 years of marriage. And I remember there was a woman that was like, so when are you going to have kids? I'm ready for you to have kids.
Oh my gosh.
And I had just had a miscarriage that week.
Oh.
And so I had to stand there and let her like tell me how
Right.
ridiculous I was being for not having kids, having just suffered. I was like dying inside. And Matt saw my face and knew he had to get me out of there. And she meant well. Like I'd known her a long time. And she was one of my leaders growing up, you know, and I loved the woman, but sorely misplaced.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
that's, and kids are a lot of work, man. Like,
They're
'cause then
expensive.
after all those years, we went from 0 to 3 in a year, and boy,
Oh my gosh. That's
it is not for the faint of
unbelievable.
heart. It's not for everybody. I truly believe that. It is not like everybody has their own individual call. We are all fearfully and wonderfully made, and God has an individual purpose, and everybody does not have to do the same thing. You know what I mean? Like that drives me crazy. So no, it is not wrong or selfish.
I think the only wrong piece that could come from this is if you literally think like kids are terrible. You know what I mean? Like kids are not the future. Well, then of course you're wrong. Like no, like we should have kids in that sense. Like let's you know whatever. But to like put the pressure on like Christians have to do it one certain way. No.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I had a professor at my college that actually said he would never have children because he didn't want to bring more sin into the world. Because children, you know, we
way.
have a sinful nature, and so he felt that he could not have children to bring more sin into the world. Whoa, you know, like that's a totally different. Like,
That's-
I was just saying, like, no, that's not what that's about.
Right.
But everybody has their own journey, their own story, their own like thing. So why? Don't put that on yourself. Don't put that on other people even. But yeah, there's the messed up theology too of, no, we're just going to save the world from sin by not having children. What? Like so weird.
So, Nate, if you were to answer this question with the goal of offering freedom and hope to this person, what would you say?
I would say kids are great until they're junior high. Then they smell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about
They
right.
smell real bad. Yeah, I would say, I mean, it would be more like understanding what they've gone through, the journey as to what brings that question about. Is it wrong or selfish? The selfish words is what I get. Like that word alone gets my attention. Is it wrong or selfish to not want children? Why would that be selfish? Why is that selfish at all to even think about in that way? And that's yeah. So I don't know. I'm maybe looking way too into the question, but in general, if it wasn't just about this question, I would just say it's more about you and God and what God is asking you to do, not people. You know, because I mean, I even see the stress that we put on. My oldest is married. They're enjoying married life. You know, I don't want to put any pressure on them to have kids. It's going to be great when they choose to, if they choose to. But I already know they're getting pressure. Yeah. I hear it all the time. Yeah. I'm like, no, enjoy being married. Yeah, we started very early. So we had our first kid when I was 19. Yeah, so like we had an early start. And because of that, it helped me. It matured me. But I also had to talk to Becca. Like, I have feelings. I'm not just meat. Not just kidding.
Oh my god.
No, but like honestly, that's what it comes down to. It feels like this is what we're made to do. That's it.
Yeah.
Like honestly.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
Right.
We were made to love God and love others. What comes out of that is more with who God is, not us. So yeah.
That selfish word stuck out to me too. Like, if that's somebody asking you or telling you or putting this pressure on you, like, whose voice are you going to listen to? Somebody that doesn't have the whole picture and maybe doesn't know you or has their own idea of what should and shouldn't be, versus, like you said, it's between you and God. So always listen to his voice. That's not how he would talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. One last parenting question, and then we will have a brain break. It is how this is quite the question. How do you raise children and teens with Christian values while still allowing them to choose Christianity on their own? I want my child to want this choice for themselves and not force it on them. So I think this question, like, it really depends. Obviously, I'm not answering the question, but I'm just saying, like, this is very much an opinion question. So just throwing that out there. But did you want to start, Evan?
Sure. I mean, I have kids. I think a quick key thing is to create a safe space for them to explore their faith individually on their own. You don't want to force your faith on them because you want them to own their own faith. They don't need to just do whatever mom and dad says. They need to own their own faith. And as parents, obviously, we hope and point them towards Jesus. But I think to keep that trust with them where it isn't an argument or anything like that is that you maintain a space within the home for them to explore, to have questions, to not feel guilt and shame when they do question things. I mean, I think a lot of Christians, if not all Christians, go through a season or many seasons of doubting those things, of questioning different aspects of faith. So let's create space for our kids to do that, whatever age they start to do that. And hopefully you are attending a church, if not faith church, that is a safe space for your kid and for yourself to come with whatever question. So for me, just a quick tip is just creating space for a kid to explore their faith and not giving them any type of guilt and shame for questions or thoughts or what book they might be reading next, stuff like that.
Right. What like practically does creating a space look like? Like, do you have any like tips on how to do that?
I would say asking them open-ended questions, not as a quiz to see if they get their faith right, but as a what's going on in your head. Like, let's just have conversation around faith and not making them feel like they need to nail it down today and get this right today and stuff like that. I would just leave it as like guilt-free and shame-free conversations. Like it's a pressure-free zone at home, or at least it should be in that sense. So your kid, if you keep hammering them with Christianity, they're gonna push back and they're not gonna talk to you about stuff, and it's not gonna go the way you hope it is, despite how hard you're trying to make it go that way.
Right.
Like, it's almost like, no, loosen it a little bit, less control. A lot of times leads towards like what you're actually wanting the kid to do.
Wow. Parenting's
Good
hard.
stuff.
I don't know if this, I feel like as a practical side, raising kids when you are a believer and you want them to be as well, like not using God or Jesus, like as a tool to get them to do what you want them to do. That's very like, oh, honey, that makes God's heart sad. Like,
interesting.
like verbiage like that. And it might, like, you still have to teach them. You still have to teach them what you believe and tell them things, but not doing it in a like legalistic, kind of way. Like just sharing your faith and being real in just a real everyday kind of way versus setting them down and teaching them all of the, like, you don't just give them a list or give them a right and wrong and what, like, it has to be a daily life thing, like that relationship with you and them, and then sharing what your relationship with God is like. So at least that's my take.
You have any thoughts, Courtney?
I was kind of headed where Ashley was in my head, actually. It's more about, as a parent, like living out your faith in just everything, and not even having to force the child to do much. Now, I have a 6-year-old, so I'm still very much like at the beginning stages of this. But I catch myself a lot. Elena, my daughter, was having a big fit a couple nights ago, and I almost caught myself saying like, "Oh, God doesn't like it when you act like this," like, because that's like I heard that verbiage, and so, and like I think that would probably get her to calm down, but that's not what I don't want to put guilt and shame on her.
Yeah.
Like that is not gonna help her in the long haul. And she's a kid too who will do what she thinks is right, or to like if I look at her the wrong way, she gets sad and is like, "I didn't mean it, Mom, I didn't mean it." And I'm like, "Whoa, like I wasn't even like going there."
You show that look towards me too.
I do. Yeah. Mainly when you sit on furniture. But so I have to be careful with Elena.
That's usually what you hear when this.
So I find myself like in that battle fairly often, just internally for myself, of like I want Elena to grow up loving Jesus, but I don't want to force that on her or make it to the point where she feels like she has to pursue perfection, has to pursue this thing that isn't even who Jesus really is, this guilt and shame driven behavior. And so like, yeah, I absolutely want her to choose to go to church and to choose that after she's out of our house and whatnot, or even in the teen years coming up, because I know middle school's gonna suck.
Yeah.
But it's trying to build that groundwork of, hey, this is just like in the free space too. Like I love that. That's something when I work with teens, like I love having those conversations and creating a space where they can come and be like, you know what? I don't know that I believe that Jesus actually existed, or I don't know that I believe. Like, awesome. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's dive into where your head's really at, and let's talk through it more instead of like, I can't believe you said that. Get out of here. So yeah, it's just about creating that environment where they can be there, but then also living out your faith and showing God's love on a constant basis and grace. Like that's for me been the driving thing in my parenting, is trying to show love and grace beyond what I think I'm even capable of.
That's good.
In the hopes that Elena will pick up on that.
Yeah. Nate, how would you encourage a parent or parents who maybe they feel like they're not doing a good job of this, or maybe they have children who have totally turned, or like have not continued in Christianity when they got turned 18? Like, how would you encourage parents who are just wrestling with this kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it's a really tough spot, because when you talk about kids that have stopped attending church and you're dealing with parents that are, working through that, like there's just a lot of fear around kids. There's a lot of worry. There's a lot of, am I going to mess them up? The truth is you're going to mess up your kids. Like there's no way around it. There's no way around that. And whether you like that or not, you have to come to grips with that. So it's not about perfection. But the other piece, I feel like with kids, at least what I've tried to do as a youth pastor, as being a dad, is trying to figure out what they're passionate about. If you can understand what they are passionate about, then there is so much more you can do with kids, in the sense of like, open up opportunities for them to explore that passion, get them invested in that, understand, because I feel like it's not about them finding out more of how this world works. It's more or less figuring out how they work and how they fit in this world. And I think it revolves around passion. I really do. And I think if you can get kids passionate about something, which you guys can speak into this, the youngest generation right now, I don't think they have any problem with passion.
No.
They're passionate about so many things. So why isn't the older generation stepping into saying, here's what I've learned from my passion? You know, like those are the questions I think about a lot, because I feel like that's what's going to bring unity. That's what's going to really make a difference, is when we really can help each other. And so to me, it's more about going back to the basics of understanding who you are in Christ is going to help you parent no matter what. It really is. So that's my 2 cents.
That's great. Any last thoughts before we move on? Alrighty.
I want that parent to know, like, this is coming out of care, obviously, for your child. And we're here with you, whatever we can do to support you. Like, you can hear the care
Absolutely.
in that question for your child or children.
And the pressure, like, we're not going to, like Nate said, we're not going to get it perfect. And it's okay. It's, that's why we're part of a community where we help each other and we just love each other. And yeah.
I had a thought the other day. If one of my kids was in counseling because of something I said, I would love that.
Yeah.
Like, that would be an honor, in the sense, not because I messed up or anything. It's because they're working through it. Like, praise God for that. And I think we're always worried about them going there. I'm more like, I can't wait till they go there.
Yeah.
Because then it means they're actually going.
Healing.
Yeah, they're trying to. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Are we ready to move to a brain break? It's been pretty heavy. Do you actually have a brain break?
Oh, yeah,
Evan?
I have a question for brain break.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm obsessed with superheroes. That's one of my niches, right? So here's a question for us. If you had to be or create a animal or insect inspired superhero, persona, powers, whatever, what would yours be? And it can't be something that's already done. No Batmans.
So bats are out.
Bats are out. Bats are out.
Bummer.
Can't be Catwoman.
Oh, right.
Be original. Be original.
Is the tick on the options? Did you ever watch that show, The Tick?
That's
Yeah,
not
that was-
original.
That's not
It's been
original.
done.
Tried to make
Tick,
that.
Be a
man.
tick.
Yeah.
It's been done.
Can't be a
Oh,
tick.
jeez.
Great question.
That is a
That's
great.
tough.
I would be a
Yeah,
giraffe
thumbs up.
man. Giraffe man. But it would be like my neck can extend when needed. Not like I would walk around with an extended.
You need to be
Inspector
taller.
Gadget had that.
But
though.
imagine, but there isn't a giraffe man.
Oh, I guess
true.
that's not.
See what I mean? So I could, like, if someone's like, hey, is there something up there? I could just lift my neck up real quick, be like, nope, and come back down.
Wait, a superhero doesn't consist of them having a long neck.
You can't always decide how, like, that giraffe bite mutates
That's
your
true.
DNA.
So out of all
okay?
the options, you want a long neck.
I was
So
at Binder Park Zoo. I got bit feeding the giraffes. See, I got a whole backstory. And
Yeah.
So
the
then-
origin
story.
movies coming out.
When people are like, help, help, my cat's stuck in the tree,
Yeah.
Evan's like, whoop, and he looks, and he's like, yup,
Yes.
can't do anything about it.
Unless you want me to bite it,
He can't reach it.
I can
like,
bite
with
your
his
cat.
hand. Yeah.
Odds are I won't.
But
'cause
he'll be
that's
like,
gross.
yup,
I was gonna say, there's
I
no
can
way.
confirm your cat is their man.
Yes.
And that's the end of his superhero
So
powers.
location, like kind of
got
like
it.
how bats have sonar. I would have that, but with my neck.
I
So
Right.
step
Yeah.
one, let's have him look.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the
I
purpose.
am step one to any plan of action. I'm the looker. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody else, move on. Who else?
I'm glad you put a lot of thought into this.
Have you guys
Giraffe
seen
Man's
Sky High?
retired already. Sky High.
Have you seen that movie?
No.
Oh, it must
Yeah,
be a millennial
yeah.
thing.
I don't know what it is.
The reason I bring it up because it was like
Shark
it's a high
Boy
school.
Lava?
No. That's way different.
That's part of the
No, Sky
MCU.
High is a old movie where
Wasn't it around the same time? though?
probably
Okay.
yeah, about the same time. But they had like it was a high school for superheroes, and they had like a superhero track and a sidekick track.
Ooh.
You'd probably be in the
Yeah,
sidekick track.
sidekick. For sure. It depends though. Have you ever seen
That was amazing, Jacob.
a giraffe fight? They whip
Oh
their
yeah,
heads
that's
at
true.
people.
That's true.
So
You
I
can get some
could
serious
fight if
centrifugal
needed,
force there.
but all it takes is never mind. I could get too gory.
Oh, let's not
No,
do
that's
that
why I'm
again.
saying like, yeah, I wouldn't fight.
No.
Nope. Just
I
look.
got one.
Yeah.
I would be the historical goat. So I'd be. Hold on.
What does that mean?
I'd be a goat that has a good beard. Okay, first off, good beard has long horns because they're just cool.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm bald, so I need horns. If I had horns, I think it would look. No, that probably wouldn't be good for the church.
it'd be cool.
Yeah. Anyways, this goat would have the ability to look historically in people's lives.
Oh, nice.
Just thinking.
Interesting.
You could read people's histories.
Right.
And then headbutt them.
Yeah. I was thinking like superpowers inspired by the animal. So I'm not sure like how.
Hey, who knows what powers you
You're right.
You never.
Right. When
Who
you get
knows how
bit
the
by
gen?
a
Yeah, the
radioactive
genes
goat,
work.
Yeah.
You're right. No,
You can go anywhere.
you're
As long as you got a
absolutely
beard,
Yes.
you're good.
As long as you got.
And spitting. Don't they spit?
No, that's llamas.
No, that's
Eat,
llamas.
like- Well, they eat clothes and stuff, right?
They have a
do.
cud.
Yes.
Yeah.
They do goat
Cud.
yoga.
They have good milk.
True.
Mm-hmm.
They
So
provide.
I mean to jump to
Good
judgment
cheese.
right away, but it sounds like also on the sidekick track
Probably.
with goat,
Mm.
historical goat.
Yeah, it's more of
Okay.
a.
Yeah.
Will we have a leading hero or heroine
A
here?
lot of them are taken though.
That's
already.
true. There are a lot taken.
I went to monkey,
Oh, that's a
Okay.
good one.
which I feel like I could go climb the tree and get the
right.
cat
Hey,
then after
Like,
Evan
chimps
spots
are pretty
it.
strong.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Look out, Avengers.
Yeah, yeah. So
Although that's no, never mind. I was gonna think like the beast, the blue guy. That's kind of sort
that's
of.
what I was like. I was trying to think if
but-
there's one that's already in existence, but that's where I would go.
I don't
You
think
just
so.
like shimmy up things and go and like swing and oh yeah, it'd be great.
turn your feet into hands.
Like
Yeah,
that.
you could throw things.
Like
They got that down.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Sure do.
That's very
Monkey
good.
energy.
Yep. Yeah.
Every
I don't know. Is that sidekick or is that leading role?
I'd say somewhere in the middle.
Oh,
Have you guys? I think that's more lead for sure.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Like I mean, I could see it both, but like
Yeah.
out of what Nate and I came up with,
Mm.
oh yeah, more
Oh,
lead.
it depends on how you use
the,
it.
the
Depends on how
bar
you
was
use it.
pretty high
More
there, though.
lead.
It was,
Have you
it was
guys ever
tough.
seen that video of like people near a monkey exhibit at a zoo, and there's like grandma in a wheelchair, and monkey decides to launch something at the grandma?
Yes.
Google that, friends.
That happened. That
Let's make
happened
sure you
at
see
the
that.
Grand Rapids Zoo.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they
That
actually have everything netted off
really-
now because the monkeys were just chucking poop at people, like for real.
Man.
'Cause
That's
I-
your superpower
Spoiler
right there.
alert.
Yeah, right.
It is my superpower,
Yeah.
but it's,
I think that's it.
it's
That's
the,
totally
the
lead.
secret
Here's the thing.
superpower.
She did
Courtney, you have a
tummy
good arm.
rumble.
I do.
You have a good arm.
Yes.
I
Mhm.
think that's where
Yeah,
it's
things are gonna happen.
That's awesome. All right.
Ash.
I don't wanna.
Oh, come on.
No, it's terrible. I have an idea, but it's really
Just
bad.
it doesn't matter. Just say
Lab.
it.
No, I love hummingbirds.
Oh.
Oh.
Wait, no, that's
I
dope.
would
Walk
be a
us through the
hummingbird
power.
I learned
that
something new too. Don't
could
let me
hum
forget.
in people's ears and like. Well, it depends on, I guess, my motive, but I was thinking like good things. But like, there's also the Umbrella Academy is a show on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's real trippy.
It
It's
is
weird.
trippy.
But there's one of the original girls was like, I heard a rumor and then could make them do whatever.
Oh, true.
And so like I could hum in people's ears whatever they
Rumor
needed to
weed.
hear.
Encouragement.
I was thinking, actually, I was thinking I could help
You're a
Holy
great
Spirit out a little
encourager.
bit, but
Oh,
like remind people who they are. I don't know.
Wow.
You
But
could
I would
like
also
come up
be
to
hard
me
to
and be
target
like,
because
"Does
they're
furniture
fast and-
creak?"
I'm done.
My first thought was using your beak like a sword.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ooh.
Stab.
I
Stabby
thought
stab.
you could use your wings like in somebody's ear to disorient them. 'cause
Oh,
it's
true,
so
true, true.
loud.
Yeah.
There's
Like,
a lot
oh,
happening here.
yeah.
So many options.
Would you be like human-sized hummingbird, or would you shrink?
No, I would still be small.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you shrink. Yeah, that
Because
might
then
be
it'd be a harder
intimidating
target
if
for
you're
people
like
to defeat too.
buzzing next to somebody's ear as a whole human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Fun fact: I found out this week there is a moth that is a hummingbird. It's
I
all.
think I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's really. I looked it up, and it's actually it's ugly, but it looks like a hummingbird. It's crazy. It's a
Yeah.
moth. I had no idea.
There's a hummingbird migration in Colorado too. It's on my bucket list of there's a little town to go to,
Oh,
and
interesting.
they line the streets with these hummingbird feeders, and just like thousands
parade.
and
That's cool.
thousands come through,
That's wild.
and you can just watch them, and they stop as they travel, like with the seasons and stuff. So
That's neat.
anyway, I love hummingbirds.
I saw a TikTok where like a guy was like feeding a hummingbird like every day for a certain amount of time to gain its trust, and then it would land on his finger to eat.
That
That's
they're
so
so
cool.
majestic. They're so cool. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was my first
Natural
tattoo. Was a hummingbird.
helicopters.
Oh, natural helicopters.
Yeah.
Nice.
or
Yeah.
Harrier jets.
Jacob?
I don't know. My first thought was some sort of sea animal because I just feel like it'd be fun to breathe underwater.
Hmm.
But
Gillyweed helps with that, I hear.
it's true.
we
Yeah,
can. That's good.
So
That'd be
which
cool.
one?
I don't know. Can a mythical creature be a thing?
No.
Nope.
Tragic.
Because you have to be bit by it in real life.
Oh, I see. Killer whale.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Apex Predator.
Yeah. Apex predator. That's a Broadway
So
song.
what would your superpower be within that? Besides breathing it underwater?
Right. Except technically they don't because
holding
they're
their
whales.
breath.
Yeah.
Fun fact, they're actually dolphins.
Right.
Well, if you're a whale, you'd have a
They
blowhole.
are.
right.
Huh.
I speak whale.
Wait, guys, Ashley just said she speaks whale.
Oh, nice.
Oh, show us.
Demonstrating.
How do you?
We could use Jacob's blowhole as like a rocket launcher.
There you go.
Like slam a ball inside of them and squeeze them. It'd be like,
That's the superpower.
just pop right out
I'm
of
telling you,
it.
you got a blowhole. So you get to hold your
All
breath
right, load Jacob.
and you blow the air out when you get to the surface. It's great.
Does he take care of bats? Because that might be a handful.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway,
That was something.
Wow.
let's move
That was a
on.
break.
Well,
I mean, they're also really smart too, so that's nice.
yeah,
Killer whales.
they are. Have you seen the documentary Blackfish?
That's
No.
pretty intense.
Oh.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
about SeaWorld.
Oh.
Really crazy.
Oh no, I don't want to watch that. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Deals with killer whales, though.
killer whales. Did you want to say something? Are you sure? I really feel like you want to say something.
Moment's over.
Okay.
It's gonna be a comment about Free Willy, but it's fine.
Oh, Free Willy.
That was a good.
That was a good one.
Oh, Michael.
When he jumped the rocks, I had chills.
I know,
Oh.
right?
Woo. Okay.
Who
He
did
was
it?
free. Yeah.
We're ready to hop back in. We'll just have a few more. So where I want to go next is kind of how we were talking about in parenting. A lot of your responses were like no shame, guilt, but also like allowing them to ask questions. So I super appreciate that because when I was growing up, there was no space for me to have questions. So I had to do that in my 20s instead of when I was a teenager. But so this question is, if we doubt our salvation, does that mean we're not saved? Evan, you want to start us out with that?
Yeah. Another great question. I hope you know you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
I have doubted my salvation too at times, and even it's not like I have a date set, but I would say even recently, in the sense of like,
Sure, yeah.
you know, sometimes it happens and you think through and try to figure that out and stuff. But I do come back to security, and I think being a parent too has helped me so much understand some of that. I think of like, if there's ever a moment where my child questions my love for them, I don't push them away. If anything, I hold them a little bit closer. I encourage them a little bit more and make sure that they know. And so sometimes when we have these questions around our salvation or does God still love me and stuff, like already we're putting ourselves in a wrong position, because already the moment we begin to question, God is drawing us closer. So there's almost this paradigm in the sense of like, when you question God, I would expect him as a good father to just hold you that much closer if that's possible, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I don't like, if we doubt our salvation, does that mean we are not saved? Absolutely not. I wouldn't say that at all. And if anything, I think God is trying to draw you even closer to let you know how much he loves you in this moment as you're wrestling through that question.
Did you want to chime in?
I actually had somebody tell me once with that, if you don't doubt your salvation at any point, then maybe you're not saved. Because it was that whole idea of like, you need to grow and continue in your faith. And so there's going to be times, because it is faith, like we don't know all the answers based on some of these questions where we're like, here's what we think. So it was just an interesting comment to like sit and process. You're like, like if you don't doubt at any point, are you even really saved? Are you even working out your salvation? Are you even trying to grow in it and like live life and implement life with salvation? I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about that comment, but for me, it gave me some comfort too, because I absolutely have had the moments of sitting in ministry going, what if I'm wrong? Like, what if I have this whole thing dead wrong? What does that look like? Like, whoa, it makes my head hurt. It makes me, just want to curl in a ball in the fetal position. But it is that coming back then to like, who is Jesus and who is that? I think of Thomas too, doubting Thomas in the Bible, one of Jesus's disciples, and he didn't believe that Jesus had come back from the dead, and Jesus didn't give up on him. He wasn't like, oh, Thomas, you're out, see ya.
Right.
He like showed up to him, like, and I was like, here, actually touch me, like, believe, like, here I am. Kind of what Evan was saying, like, he was even more like, Thomas, you need to come talk to me. And so I think that there is absolutely room for doubt in our salvation, but it's that growing and working it out too, and it should end in greater trust as we work through it.
Yeah, I'd probably add to that, even to the sense of like, to mess around, if you want to go to extremes, to be like, if you haven't doubted God, you may not have had an experience with God. And I don't want to put that on anybody, like pressure to say, oh, I have to. Not that's not what I'm saying at all. But yeah, I had a professor in seminary who was a church historian, and he started the class saying, I am a lifelong skeptic. Yeah. He said, I've always been a skeptic my entire life. That has never changed. So he embraced it and said, I'm still a follower of Jesus, but I'm going to be a skeptical follower. And that really helped me. And I know it helped their class just be like, okay, this is totally okay. It's bizarre to think about Christianity. Yeah, it really is. Like it's a bizarre way of putting this all together. It doesn't mean because it's bizarre, it doesn't mean it's not true, but it also means we're okay to question. And I think to question is one thing. To then say, I'm going against this to prove you wrong, that's a whole different stance. So to be openly pursuing God and to say, I doubt some things, and to actually move those doubts towards God is actually, I think, how we all operate, whether we admit it or not. We have to, because it incorporates all of us.
I think as we all do go through this, like back to that parenting question, that's where we give ourselves some space too. We have to allow questioning, and from kids and from ourselves and everything, for it to have a deeper meaning. It's okay. It's okay to have those doubts.
Yeah.
And Jesus is patient. He doesn't ever turn his back on us. He doesn't ever say, well, all right, that one's done. We're done. They don't get it. And so just knowing his true heart like that, he's always waiting for us.
What do you guys do with the verse, or what Jesus did on the cross when he says, why have you forsaken me? Obviously, he's quoting Psalm. It was already there, so you can expound on where he quotes that. But there's also this, he's saying, God, why have you forsaken me? What's that all about? Anybody?
I mean, we can't really fathom the amount of physical pain and torture that he had gone through, and it must have felt that way, I mean, he knew how much his father loved him, and he did say beforehand that his joy would be complete by doing his father's will. But even in that moment, like, I can't imagine how I would feel.
Well, literally, Jesus asked God to take that cup from him.
Right.
Don't even have me do this, God. Like if we can't come to a conclusion where we create space, allow even ourselves, like you were saying, to question, to have doubts, thoughts, anything, like, man, you're doing yourself a disjustice when even Jesus wrestled with God and asked him, like, I this might be too much. This might be too painful. Can we find a different way? Whatever it might be, whatever that conversation full on looked like. I think of, not to get all preachy, but I think of like Peter, he spent 3 years walking with Jesus. And after Jesus was arrested, he denied Jesus, even knowing him 3 times. Like where have we found ourselves in any spot of life where we're like, yeah, I don't even know who this Jesus guy is. You know what I mean? Like to go to that extent that Peter went, yet he's the one who started the first church. He's the pillar of the church. And like, so we do ourselves discredit when we don't give ourselves space to explore and discover and question.
I think too, in that moment, it was how he was feeling in that moment. I think, obviously deep down, he truly knew where his father was and that it was part of the plan for everyone. But like, it was also an expression in the moment of agony, I don't know. I just don't think I believe that he was truly feeling that God deserted him. It was more of a where he was at in that moment. Does that make sense?
There's a million camps and theories around this. One of them is that the reason why Jesus was able to utter such a strong statement was that this is just a theory. Please, listeners, watchers, do not say this is what Evan or Faith Church. No. I'm just throwing it out there because it's interesting. But that God had to remove his God part out of Jesus so that way he may enter hell.
So he could die.
And so he was in hell for 3 days because there wasn't a God part in Jesus. And then God gave him the God part 3 days later. And so that was like a moment of like forsaking by God because he was, but again, that's a theory. There is no scripture around like saying that's what it is or isn't. It's just trying to explain it. Nate, what are your thoughts on your own question?
There's tons of thoughts about it. But what? Oh, sorry, Courtney, go for it.
Oh no, it's fine. I was actually so that's what I was raised. Like I had that. Oh, for real. Mm-hmm. So like why? So Nate asked that question. I was like, well, because God literally turned his back to him because Jesus entered hell, and so there was a separation between him and God at that point. Now, I have no clue why I believe that or what the like. So that was I'm sitting here listening, going, huh? Like why do? What's the verse? Are there verses? Like I have, it's one of the things that's just like, oh, I heard. I was like, okay, that's how it goes. And I never sat here and questioned it before. So thanks for that, Nate. I really appreciate that. Just
here for you.
Blowing my mind. In the moment, it's fantastic. Great, love it. More deconstruction. Go, Nate.
Right.
I think if anything, we're talking God's position. It's not human position. So it's like there's not going to be a complete answer until we get to actually be in heaven or be with Jesus present and say, why did this happen? But really, so when it comes down to it, if we can ever take anything from it, it would be the fact that faith has doubt. Truly.
Yeah.
There's doubt in faith.
Like intrinsic. And
the part that I get weary about is the sense of why does the church work so hard at alleviating doubt? I think that's where we have gone wrong, because the minute you start canceling the negative side of things, you're losing the full picture. There has to be a negative side to complement the positive side, and then there's a supernatural side where we talk about, in many ways, the third way. Jesus is the third way. It's a third option. Not that there's 3 options. The fact that there's an option no one thought about. There's Jesus, and so doubt has to be a part of that in a good way. Like even God can use doubt for good. That's supernatural. That's how you know you're in a divine territory, when both faith and doubt can come together and there's something greater. That's my opinion.
I think in the church too, like working in a church, being a believer, we're supposed to grow the kingdom. So there's this pressure to present like something attractional for people to believe in, so that then we are doing our job. We are leading people to Christ. We are, and the negative side, like you said, that's not a happy side. And we as humankind don't want pain or unstableness, what instability, I guess is a better way to say that. But so we try to create this perfectly packaged Jesus and say, life is going to be great. Everything's great. Don't doubt. You're good. Everything's great, so that people will want to do that more. But that's, like you said, it's not the full picture. And he is a being that lives and feels everything just like we do. So yeah, again, it puts the pressure on ourselves.
I've even noticed, maybe podcasts, whatever, but I've heard Christian leaders even respond and to say, even for a greeting, how are you doing? Blessed beyond belief. Those kind of statements.
Yeah.
Those statements, I get, it's a good motive, but it also then sets the stage for, if I feel anything negative at that point, then I'm not going to be considered blessed anymore. That's what it feels like, And so I'm not saying it's right or wrong, whatever it is. It's just a saying. But I feel like we have to be a little bit aware that Christianity is not all positive. And the minute we realize that, so no one wants to wish suffering upon people, but look at what Jesus has done through suffering all the time. He brings dry bones and brings life, breathes life into dry bones. So there's a dry bone aspect to this life in the sense where we suffer. There's death, and we can't get around that. That doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. It means that God's going to bring something good from it. I don't know. And there's a lot to that.